conscious a brief of the cosmology, scale out certain characters which we will scale. But it will all be intertwined. See, Zatanna and every other sorcerer in DC Comics use the power of belief for their magic to have its true strength. For example, we have the prodigy Dr. Fate named Khalid, who was talking to the readers through the comics to help them so they could meet up with the rest of the Justice League Dark. And there's a statement he makes which people don't take note of in DC. He says that the magic of the second dimension is much more limited than that of the third, simply because just like the other forces of creation and life-sustaining energies, they vary based on transcendence within the verse. Just like how within the orrery of worlds, which is actually the second dimension in terms of non-geometrical quantification, the connection of the new 52, or as it is in Infinite Frontier, there isn't really an inherent 52 multiverses there wasn't before. But this is sort of contradictory because in the multiverse map it shows 52 main universes, which has always been the case because outside the orrery still lies an infinite amount of universes. But I think this time the difference is that unlike before, where I thought each universe in DC was like Marvel, where it contained infinite universes, meaning each universe was a multiverse or multiverse, with each universe in this multiverse having infinite dimensional constructs because of the megaverse theory in Watchmen. Just instead, this scan is talking about universes outside the orrery, which I used other scans to justify. But this is what it meant. Since DC started, this is the first time the base of the cosmology is actually catching up. In the Infinite Frontier, the archetype concept of these superheroes have changed because they aren't the focus of the multiverse anymore. And this is serious trouble for wankers of their power. Aside that, there are infinite important multiverses now. In fact, the orrery is much bigger that they stick to the original drawing because you cannot fit infinity in that small picture, right? Before there was just 52 main universes, and you had Earth Zero, which was the prime Earth. But now Earth Zero isn't the only prime Earth anymore. Now the orrery of worlds doesn't have much magic to draw from, which is what magicians do in DC. Dr. Fate slash Nabu usually drew the most, but this happening could be as a result that Earth Zero isn't prime Earth alone any longer, meaning it could be sharing its necessity or its necessary usage of everything in creation, or simply on the safer side as usual. The multiverse cannot pack all its power on a lesser existence. It would clearly destroy it, except it is a prime world and they weren't on Earth. And this prime Earth is insane because it started like quite some times, like even old comics. Every bad thing, every crisis, order, and chaos happens on Earth. Earth attracts all these powerful things that shouldn't even exist in the universe, but can fight on a fucking planet. It's insane, right? People are throwing out of versal and high out of versal attacks on a planet and it's not destroying. Same thing happens with Marvel. Why it's called necessary existence and archetypal existence. DC is built around mainly platonic archetypes. It's not new. The multiverse is basically archetypes. Same thing with Marvel comics, but Marvel is built mainly on Jungian archetypes, while DC is built mainly on platonic archetypes, and both also embody the other versions of archetypes, but one is more profound. Watch my DC cosmology video. I do go deep on these, and I will link everything down below. Now, magic has its levels which it affects across creation, and same with the speed force. That's why Barry sometimes seems like he gets amps, but he is just tapping into his higher power, which transcends the previous to be on another level of godhood, which explains how he can so casually run around the the infinite orrery, the finite orrery, and the new infinite worlds popping every day casually, but has to boom tube a bit to the god sphere, has to tap into more power of the speed force as he challenges beings who can fight on the level of the source. Right, just like the new infinite frontier, where I think, was it the presence, I'm not certain that was the presence, but let's say it was the presence who amped him. Why? Because even from the DC map, the speed force is shown to extend within into the overvoid. So Barry Allen can get as powerful as he really needs to, and he's, as long as I'm concerned, I keep saying it, Wally West or Barry Allen are the strongest Justice League members by a long shot, not even Superman. Superman's whole concept of hope is actually kind of easy to debunk. It's really powerful, but it's quite useless outside the DC multiverse, but not the Flash's power actually. Now, same with magic. If you pull magic of order in the multiverse or chaos, then it will manifest itself depending on how much you can collect, right? If you do that, if you pull magic of order in the multiverse, which is all around you, then you will bend reality to your will so easily. But this all comes at a cost. You have belief also in you have belief also in magic to even use it, and for it to be powerful. Also, the magic does have limits unless your belief is on a level you can put it from. You can pull it from a higher plane, just like Dr. Fate actually does, Constantine does, and basically every member of Justice League Dark, especially Zatanna. Right, and Dr. Fate does this because he's one of the Lords of Order. He's Nabu, for example. Right, magic on the sphere of the gods is so intense, is stated to come from there. Right, the sphere of the gods is actually a lot more impressive. I think DC may get another amp from me the more I think about this sphere theme, because the this sphere thing and this omniverse theory actually may give DC a very good amp, right? Because it seems like each, like the sphere of the gods is actually multiple layered than I thought, right? Than just those few realms shown. I think what happens is that these realms shown within the sphere of the gods are actually extremely largely inaccessible realms, and within them you have like layers of existence, but that it's barely shown. I don't want to, this is just headcanon and likely an outlier, because it hasn't necessarily been shown to do such. I'm just saying, like, because the new multiverse, like the local multiverse, is actually now called like a local omniverse, right? Because it's a collection of infinite multiverses, yada yada. Let me say each multiverse now gets like outerversal each. Before it was like high 1B, so that's really like an amp already for like the baseline of the DC cosmology. So which means you're no longer talking about like the god sphere now is already reaching like probably outer plus ranges, and so the cosmology actually has gotten an amp. Yeah, it has gotten an amp. It's not like before, but it still has a lot of work to do catching up to Marvel Comics. The gap is still kind of much. So I was saying, so like the magic then gets more intense beyond the multiverse itself. Now when I say these, I'm not talking about the source or all that, but we will get there when we start talking about like Prolian, like the True Green and Parliament and shit like that, yada yada. So Zatanna in base form can take on the likes of Merlin while constantly keeping Upside Down Man in check, right? Her magic was like she has been restricting herself from using her magic so that she doesn't use too much power and doesn't have enough power to hold down a perpetual level threat. Zatanna is insane, bro. So like she's been doing this to like keep the Upside Down Man in check. Though fighting the likes of Merlin is impressive for so many reasons. Before I go there, right, Merlin wasn't beat by Yuga Khan, aka Darkseid's father, but doesn't mean he was inherently stronger. Merlin had died and been brought back or came back. Yuga Khan was a part of the Source War, which is very powerful. You see, Merlin is stated to be the greatest magician to walk the earth, and this may not be far from a lie, but neither from true. Merlin can revive Atlantis in its truest existence, reviving one of the greatest magic users greater than him. Now he's more powerful than Witchmark, Wonder Woman, who was stated to be the strongest god to walk the earth with 1/5 the power of Hecate. Now, I really avoided bringing up the presence in this video, because I'm gonna do another video on the presence, and with these infinite frontier things coming up and there, right. He's also able to exist around the tier of the source world, or the Promethean galaxy, which is above the power of upside down man, simply because during the events of Perpetua and the Darkest Night, the totality was able to subdue the likes of Cersei, who already had a good chunk of Hecate's power and has partial control over the collective unconscious, which is basically magic itself and where beliefs come from, but the collective unconscious is still under the dreaming as a whole. Anytime I talk about like a character scaling high just by existing on a certain plane, and people need to understand that all these planes of existence were not created for no reason. The fact that character can get to a higher plane of existence, which means naturally you've transcended an infinite stack of levels of power, so it is actually a feat. The mere fact that you can exist there shows that you have some form of durability, negation feat, durability feat. May not inherently correspond to strength or power, but it could also correspond to mostly durability negation, and mostly durability feat. And durability feat usually most of the time scale to power, right, unless it is non-passive, right. If the power is not inherently theirs, then it does not scale to, and it cannot be considered a feat, so it will be an anti-feat, right. Now, upside down man is from a realm for now called the other place, right, an aspect of the great darkness beyond the dark multiverse, and the dark multiverse is larger than the light multiverse, but they are relative. Now, the sixth dimension in DC is so much larger than both. It isn't even funny. The World Forger recreated the DC multiverse back in the sixth dimension, and this dimension was powerful enough to be used even against him, with the hope of Superman prevailing by just seeing the sun, which has always been a symbol for Superman to see a new day and a new belief for good to prevail. But yet the dark multiverse would be somewhat relative to the light, and during the totality, the power of the totality actually took over the collective unconscious, the speed force, and much more. Basically, the villains had an upper hand, which is why it was called the Year of the Villains. The Parliament of Trees burned, which is very impressive considering the Parliament have enough power to reach the level of the source wall right from classic times, and Swamp Thing can see creation breathing, and Hecate actually was the being who ruled the collective unconscious. But does that mean she's weaker than Perpetua? And my answer to you today is still no. But she's above or relative to the upside down man. The same way the upside down man transcends his realm, which is like a byproduct of him, and same with the members of the other kind. That's the same way Hecate is above the collective unconscious. But upside down man isn't above such, since it is magic itself, and upside down man would just be like a negative collective unconscious harnessing the power of the collective unconscious, a negative collective consciousness harnessing the power of the collective unconscious. Scaling him above the dark multiverse is as good as being on the level of the sixth dimension, because a sphere in DC literally means a whole level of reality, which would be above the fifth dimension of imps who use imagination and magic themselves. And when the source wall broke, well, what happened to the imps? What happened to the multiverse? Imagination went haywire. So you see what I'm talking about. So it won't be wrong to place him on prime perpetual tier, and Hecate is just above that, as an aspect of her can cause such damage, serious damage to creation and people on that tier. You then have the likes of Mordru, who is the true order in chaos. He can just give Wonder Woman and Zatanna little of his power, which is enough to split the universe. This same power rivals the Witch Mark and even Mordru's powers, and everything the magicians use comes from Hecate. So this is more proof that Hecate just shit on Perpetua and the Darkest Night. This is very interesting because Merlin scales above all this. He one-shot Zatanna. Note that this same unstable Zatanna is expected to be more formidable than Constantine, the freaking Hellblazer. Note that normally she has a way, she has always been above Constantine or relative in base, but she got a lot more powerful. Speaking of Constantine, I would just say a few things like he has beaten an aspect of Darkseid, he is feared by heaven and hell, he has insulted and mocked the presence, he is above the likes of the Phantom Stranger and the Spectre, who are the quintessence, and sees the multiverse, and this quintessence see the multiverse as basically fiction. All this gets more interesting to know that before Nabu could one-shot Zatanna, and John can put up a decent fight. John has fought the likes of Blight, who is God's collective dark opposite, an archetype of darkness which powers himself through belief, but that's fodder since they have gotten a lot more powerful than just the collective unconsciousness threats. In fact, every previous feat of Constantine and Zatanna is nearly pointless compared to what they can do, because Constantine is above the parliament of trees and even fights on the level of the green within creation, and Zatanna is still above him, as she can hold the upside down man while still being above a much stronger Constantine. Even mentioning the fact they beat true chaos isn't impressive because that's Nabu's rival and they are currently above Nabu. Anything Nabu can do. Their greatest threat now is Merlin, who has enough power to revive something on Earth that is greater than the collective unconscious, and it's fucking Atlantis, man. Atlantis is a true originator of magic, but still their greatest feat are future versions of them when they take on Brahma Pralaya and actually win, or I should say a gremlin of Pralaya and Avatar with the help of the True Green, the True Yggdrasil, which shows how powerful Pralaya is. An aspect you need the True Green itself to intervene. Zatanna's magic is magnificent, to be honest. At her base right now, she has skills the likes of Perpetua, the Darkest Night, and Upside Down Man. But with the older version of her, we got to see more. We got to see once. She's above Hecate, the True Green, and rivals the aspects of Pralaya. These will scale to high alto Verso to high alto plus at max, and the DC Cosmology does have an amp. So Zatanna is pretty powerful in her own right. I didn't even see, I have a lot of scans for Zatanna, more than 500, but funny enough, I didn't see the need of bringing them up because it was pointless. Everything she has done now is all you really need to just get how powerful she is. She's above literally the quintessence. She's above heaven, hell, almost the entire cosmology. She's above true order, chaos. The only magicians I think could still be above her, definitely Mordru said he can literally deal with the other kind easy if he wanted to, which I believe, because he caged Hecate and fucking took her power. It is insane, right? So yeah, I think just Mordru and Merlin are above her. I would say Merlin is more like a rival, but Mordru is on another level, and I would do a video on Mordru. This is it, man. Next is Zatanna versus Scarlet Witch, right? And I'll make it an equal stat match to see what happens. Then next we are doing Naomi versus Starbrand. Thanos videos coming, Darkseid, and a lot of other content. Please do subscribe, share the video if you like it. Yeah, purchase a video, support the channel. And yeah, that's it, man. I really appreciate it. I'm back, as y'all can see. See you next time. Peace.